Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto Manga chapter review. This one's going to be for chapter 34, which is called Training. And this is definitely one of the best chapters of Boruto that we've ever gotten. It's interesting coming off, I suppose, some relatively widely criticized chapters of just the pacing of the fight with Delta. And while there were some good moments, the pacing was the big issue. Now, this chapter sort of almost makes those all those chapters a little bit more frustrating with one of the things that it does, but it deserves praise just by itself for being this very sort of dense chapter, really developing like Kara a bit more, giving us an idea about characters' motivations, where things are going, and really, I think, just building up to, some, I think, big stuff happening. Especially when you keep in mind, of course, where the Boruto manga started, which was with the Boruto in the future, the whole Kawaki versus Boruto thing, and apparently Naruto's dead or gone or somehow. And setting up, I suppose, you being so sympathetic to Kawaki and really on board for what's going on right now, but knowing that something happens in the future. That's where a lot of the strength, I think, of the Boruto manga is coming from. So this is definitely one of those chapters where I feel we kind of have to almost go through it page by page here so I don't forget anything. So I have it kind of here in front of me and going through it. So the very start of it is just that, like, okay, Naruto wants to bring her Delta back to the village. He says that she should still be alive. Kawaki's like, no, finish her off now while you can. But then she self-destructs. Naruto just barely gets everyone else to safety. And that just kind of resolves that. But then we get the reveal. The sort of forgotten part of the fight was, of course, the drone that Delta sent off up in the sky during the fight. We see and get revealed over the course of this chapter that the drone is in fact more or less the consciousness of Delta. That it seems like it sort of transmits the personality to the body, but that it can immediately go back to the drone, and that fundamentally the key part of who Delta is actually the kind of drone in of itself. So we'll get to the bit where it's revealed all the different other bodies that she has in a second, but we go back to Kashin Koji, who, again, like, given that he's sort of in a way that was the start of a lot of this happening, it's interesting that he hasn't been too much of a focus of late other than just watching things. We see him here, his kind of toad summon is there also, and he says, very interestingly here, as expected of Uzumaki Naruto, he has a terrifying amount of power, but it's still not enough. At his level, he won't be able to defeat Jigen. So this is one that obviously has got a lot of people talking, because it is the manga directly telling us that Naruto is not as powerful as this new villain. And it's always something that I think any Naruto fan is going to struggle with at this point. Naruto at this level that he's at. How can you just, on the basis of one character saying it, kind of just accept something that seems that crazy, knowing just how powerful Naruto actually is? So you immediately are like, wait, how does Kashin Koji know the full scope of Naruto's ability? He obviously would realistically know just how powerful Jigen is, but does he know the full scope of Naruto's ability? And this is where I suppose the reveal of who Kashin Koji actually is, why he's able to be in the Leaf Village and not be detected as an intruder, which obviously gives the idea that he is a Leaf Village citizen or something along those lines. So who is he? Does he actually know just how powerful Naruto is? Because did Naruto go completely 100% all out against Delta? The fight kind of got that across, but at the same time it didn't show him using so many of his big jutsu. Again, the whole power absorption thing kind of maybe got in the way of that, but there I think is a level Naruto can go to that I don't think he went to against Delta. So it's just one of those ones to keep in mind, and I think it's more meant to be that, like, right now it probably is somewhat of an even match. It probably is a little bit of a throw up. The unique abilities that Jigen probably has will probably give him the advantage maybe initially over Naruto, who has maybe more known abilities. And just the surprise factor could be the difference here. But then later on in the same page it says, it all comes down to karma. Learning the secret behind it will be the one key that leads you to Jigen's weakness, and in all likelihood that key lays in the hands of Uzumaki Boruto. So they're getting across the idea here that Naruto, despite being the most powerful character in the series basically at this point in time, he doesn't seem like he has enough to take out Jigen. So that leads someone with a karma mark has to be the one to do it, setting up, this is, I suppose, the series very much presenting the idea of, we're going to have to see Boruto grow and develop into an exceptionally powerful ninja who is close to or at Naruto's level, and maybe the karma mark and also the Jogan Eye thing are the kind of things that kind of put him over the edge. But what's very interesting in all of this is that, okay, Kashin Koji's saying that, but he's saying this about his own leader, basically. So this seems to be confirming to us that Kashin Koji has his own ideas. He potentially is trying to take out Jigen by being part of the group, whether that's to get the control of the group himself, allow him to do something with Jigen out of the way, or he is actually just a good guy going undercover. That's very, very interesting, especially, I suppose, just about who they reveal he actually is, and what's going on there. So we then cut to Kawaki back in the Leaf Village, kind of in hospital. Of course, he got his arm blown off by the Delta blast that you can't regenerate from, so he is missing an arm. And they say, we've finished treating his wounds and installing the connections for an artificial hand, and now that's all that's left is to actually prepare a hand for him. And Konosuke basically says that that only the scientist who made Kawaki this way would be able to repair him exactly as he was, and that he doesn't really have the ability to do it on that level. He says, it would take all I can do to simply prepare a high performance hand as is. I'm currently working on it, but it's going to take some time to finish. And Naruto suggests, why not one of the prototype hands you made for me? Why can't you use one of those for now? And he says that, no, the hands I made for you only work with your chakra, and so on. So Naruto comes up with an idea. He gets one of the arms brought over, they attach it on, and he puts some of his chakra into it. He basically pumps his chakra into the hand, attaches it on, and it works. And we get the reveal here that Naruto, what he's willing to do for Kawaki here is have this, basically, as long as he's awake, this permanent connection of his chakra to this hand to keep it active, I assume up until Kawaki can actually get a hand of his own. And they sort of plant the seeds for how that's going to happen later on in the chapter as well. And this is brought up. Boruto mentions, isn't this going to drain your chakra 24/7? Naruto mentions it probably won't. You won't be able to use it while I'm asleep. And Kawaki's, kind of a little shocked by this, but he's accepting it. A little bit of a joke here about Boruto wishing he could have a fancy hand like that, but then he realizes, wait, that would involve my hand needing to get blown off at some point. So there's a bit of a kind of humorous moment in all of this. Then we cut to Kara headquarters here. We see Amato, who is the scientist guy. So the Delta drone flies back in. It lands on this sort of podium, and it's revealed that this podium is connected to 3 pods. One of them's empty, that was the Delta that was destroyed, and that there are 2 other identical Delta bodies in other pods. And what happens is just one of them immediately activates, and it's her straight away. She wakes up, blows up the pod, and she's back to her normal self, but she's even more frustrated because she didn't defeat Naruto, and this is kind of her kind of vendetta. She wants to make sure that she defeats Naruto at some point going forward. And as she's sort of stomping through the Kara headquarters, this is where we kind of get introduced to some of the other members of Kara. So the first guy that we get to meet is named Boro, B-O-R-O, and he seems to be this older guy, has a beard, has a hood, and a quick demonstration of his power. He kind of says something to her and she immediately snaps at him and kicks him, and it just kind of phases through his body, and it's not the exact same way as say the Obito ability, it's more of this kind of almost like digital type thing, like it's almost a hologram that it's being passed through. So it's a similar ability, but not the exact same. But it seems like he's able to do stuff with like the phase of himself. And he just kind of laughs at this as she kind of storms in. Then we get to meet the other guy whose name is Code, and he seems to be a bit younger. You know, sort of seems to be wearing kind of fancier clothing. He's got like flares on his like wrists and ankles and stuff like that. And then Jigen basically says, you know, calm down, don't let me see you like this. He's left Kashin Koji in charge of the mission. And this is where I suppose what Delta says about what Kashin Koji did suddenly brings them all to alert, in that he's not doing things the exact way they want him to do. She says that he's concealed within Konoha village. He should be keeping watch over Kawaki as we speak. You know, they mentioned the mission was to retrieve Kawaki in the first place before he got taken by Konoha. What is he doing? Where is he now? And Delta says that was her original intent. I planned to kill them all before they could get their hands on him and bring Kawaki home, but I was stopped by Koji. He said he wanted to let things play out so he could get more information. And this is where I suppose things begin to turn a little bit against Koji. Jigen is kind of shocked by like information. Amado kind of hears this and sort of like seems like he's onto something here. And this is where she reveals to Jigen that there's another karma mark, and that it's not Naruto. It's Boruto. It is interesting that they say, you know, we inspected the Hokage after Momoshiki died, but there was no karma on his body. And it's just kind of like, did you just look at pictures of him or what? But anyway, it's revealed that it's Boruto. He has the karma mark, and she confirms that, like, I witnessed the sort of resonance between Kawaki and Boruto. It's definitely a real karma. And then we get some inner dialogue from Jigen. And he says, this is unexpected news. That damn Momoshiki must have left it behind on the verge of death. And we get this interesting shot. I suppose it's meant to be more of a kind of visual representation of the idea of like Momoshiki sort of like hovering over, holding on to Boruto from behind, saying, my vessel, like kind of like implanting something within him. And again, it sort of presents the idea of like, what is the karma mark again, in that the fact that like Jigen knows Momoshiki, and that like seems specific that like, oh, it's an Otsutsuki type thing. It again brings up the idea of Jigen has the karma mark. He like artificially gave it to Kawaki, so Kawaki doesn't have the same way that he got it as Boruto did. Boruto got it because he like killed an Otsutsuki or left him on the verge of death, and this happened. So it sort of suggests that something very similar happened with Jigen and potentially some other Otsutsuki, or are they implying it was Momoshiki as well? Either way, the reveal of how he got his is going to be, I suppose, a very important thing to us understanding what's going on. But just the fact that he's aware of the whole Momoshiki thing seems to be important. I think it was revealed a few chapters ago as well that like they knew about the whole Momoshiki fight and that he was arriving down. So again, it kind of creates this sort of importance once again around the other kind of Otsutsuki members and so on. So then we cut back to Naruto's house, and Kawaki asks, why are you doing all of this for me? You know, this whole chakra thing, you're constantly having to like give chakra to me. Why do you want to do that? And Naruto basically says, you know, you used yourself as a shield to protect me and my daughter. You know, I have to repay that kind of gesture. And he also says, you know, you remind me of myself from a long time ago. I just couldn't leave you be. So, you know, this kind of connection growing here, pretty nice. And he says, in that case, I don't mean to cause you any more trouble or bother you any further, but could you teach me, could you give me training on how to use ninjutsu? And Naruto agrees. So, you know, Kawaki's going to be Naruto's student here. So this is the setup, I suppose, for the idea that Kawaki needs to learn how to use his chakra, to use ninjutsu, and once he does that, then they can perfect his own artificial hand that requires his own chakra to use, so they don't need to have the Naruto connection going like full time. How long into the future that is, I'm not entirely sure, but we know that I think Kawaki has both of his hands back in the initial scene of older Kawaki and Boruto. That was the big kind of tease at the very start of the series. So, and the fact that he implies that Naruto's gone in some way obviously suggests that this is only a temporary thing and that it will change. So, yeah, then we get to sort of our final sequence over the last kind of 10 pages. We see Naruto's asleep, Kawaki's in the same room as him, and it gets across the idea that when Naruto's asleep, kind of Kawaki has to be in the same room as him. That's sort of one of the rules, I think. And he's trying to fix the vase he broke all those chapters ago, Himawari's vase, and he has the super glue that was given to him, and he goes ahead and starts to kind of do this. And this is sort of this montage across the last couple of chapters as we see him grow more and more connected into like life in the Hidden Leaf Village. We see him opening up a pack of the kind of ninja cards, and the card that he gets is the fourth Hokage. So Minato, Naruto's father, of course. It's one of these kind of super shocking rare, and Boruto's impressed by this. He wish he had this card. And all the other characters kind of note how comfortable, Boruto is with Kawaki now, and how comfortable he's getting with other people as well. And Mitsuki reveals that ever since he saved Himawari, Boruto's totally opened up his heart to him, it seems. We also see that Chocho seems to have a crush on Kawaki. She says that he's so dreamy. So there's that. And Kawaki doesn't have a clue who the fourth Hokage is, even though it's revealed that, this is Boruto's grandfather you're talking about here. Boruto then opens up a pack, and as ever, he pulls a Naruto. So this is the kind of fun gimmick of him. Like, Boruto's really into this card game, and he keeps pulling, like, very rare cards. It's just the exact same one every time, and it's that seventh Hokage Naruto. And he's really disappointed about this. And this is where Kawaki offers the trade. Why don't you trade, that Naruto card to me for this Minato? And Boruto immediately accepts it because he just wants to get rid of the Naruto. And it seems like the highlight of the scene, what they're focusing on, is that Boruto gets the Minato card. But the more important thing, I suppose, is really that Kawaki specifically chose to want to get a Naruto card. And the significance behind this is ultimately that Kawaki's connection to Naruto is becoming this sort of important thing. This borderline father relationship in a way that's sort of developing here. That seems to be the way things are going. That's how, Kawaki's living in Naruto's house. Naruto's treating him just like a member of the family, doing all of this stuff to help him, and Kawaki's beginning to really see that. And so this is where, of course, he commits to gluing the vase back together, all the different parts. We see him starting the training with Naruto, with like kunai and stuff like that. He's playing the card game with, Shikadai, and I think that's Inojin there. Sarada's giving him some instruction on shuriken training. He continues making the vase. He starts to try and, fuse his chakra, I suppose. He does the whole, that kind of pose. And we see that, just all these kind of flashes of just, this vase kind of represents him forming this connection to the people of Konoha. He finally finishes it and tests it, but it's missing one tiny little piece. It's just dripping out of the bottom. He's like, there's no more pieces left. The other piece must be in, the living room. So he goes to leave the room, even though Naruto's asleep, with the idea that he's meant to be in there. And this is where someone calls out to him and says, "Hey kid," and he looks over at Naruto, and you just get this amazing shot of just the chakra form of Kurama's head, huge basically, as Naruto's still asleep, staring at him. And Kawaki's shocked, of course, and Kurama says, "Sit down, don't go wandering off from Naruto on your own." So the question here is just obviously like, okay, is this something Naruto like set up with Kurama, that while I'm asleep, you watch what's going on in the room, or what? The other thing here is that this is really one of the first times we've seen Kurama interact with someone that's not Naruto in this kind of generation. And it begs the question that, like, who actually knows that Kurama is inside Naruto, the whole Nine-Tailed Fox story. Who knows that at this point in time? I get the impression that most of the kids, like Boruto, Himawari doesn't, and all the classmates, I get the impression that they are not actually aware that that is one of the aspects of Naruto's power, is that he has the Nine-Tailed Fox inside of him, that he's a Jinchuriki. Even though I think most people are aware of the Nine-Tailed Fox, and that there's merchandise we see in episodes of the anime and stuff like that. They're aware of that. They can see that Naruto sort of has that sort of orange glow, that aspects of his abilities resemble a fox. None of them seem to immediately say or anything like that, oh, he's using the Nine-Tailed Fox power, he's using Jinchuriki powers. Most of them just seem to be oh, Naruto's super powerful, that's his ability to do all that crazy chakra cloak stuff. Because clearly one specific episode of the anime makes it clear that Himawari just doesn't know that Kurama is inside Naruto, because she wants a Kurama toy. And Naruto throughout that episode is kind of if only she knew that the real Kurama was within me. And then I assume they would have mentioned it at some point if Boruto was completely aware of this. So is what's happening next going to be the reveal to kind of everyone that Kurama's inside Naruto? Because it is an interesting dynamic that I'd like to see sort of explored, because just see what the kind of younger characters' reactions are to tailed beasts, and the fact that here's one, and all that sort of stuff. So interesting end in that it seems like Kurama and Kawaki are maybe going to have a conversation. I assume Naruto's probably going to wake up, is probably what happens. He'll have to explain what's going on there, and I suppose that could give a different impression. It might change Kawaki's impression of Naruto if he knows that some of his power comes from this tailed beast. It depends on how they go about explaining it again, and who gets the explanation or not. Because it would be a weird thing if Kawaki knows this about Naruto, but then Boruto doesn't, and what exactly is going on there. But really fun, I think, kind of cliffhanger in that it seems like it's kind of serious, but it's not really. The significance is more of yeah, they've been very light on the whole Kurama element up to now, and here's a surprise. It's sort of revealed to Kawaki of all people. Now ultimately Kawaki just wanted to go into the other room to look for the other piece. So there's nothing particularly like, bad going on. I'm just very interested to see what immediately does happen next. We do know there's no chapter next month, so we actually have to wait like 2 months basically for the next chapter, which I think is very unfortunate. Again, it really doesn't help that the pacing, that we miss a whole month, and it's like 2 months until the next chapter. That's not great. What it does, like, I'm glad they did it after a chapter like this rather than maybe last chapter. I'm glad that they have a sort of meaty chapter where there's a lot to speculate on, and they put us on break now rather than just immediately after the fight, and it was like 4 months of just punch kick and not a lot happening compared to like this, where it's like, what's going on inside Kara? Here's all these other new characters. Kashin Koji is kind of against them. Here's these reveals about Delta. Here's more character development for Kawaki. A little bit of the ninja card game stuff. Kurama reveal. There was a lot that happened in this chapter, and I think it worked really, really, really well. The art continues to be improving every single time. And yeah, once they keep the pacing nice, I think the Boruto manga does really work. I think they just need to really work on, when they do those big fights, having them feel a little bit more meaningful as we kind of go through them. Because like I said at the very start of this thing, the fact that it's revealed that, like, okay, Delta is the drone and has 2 other bodies, is just like, okay, so yeah, we wasted like 4 months of like manga chapters on like a third of a kind of sub character from one of the groups. So it's like, Okay, I get it. It was like the first big kind of Kara fight, but really, like, come on, like you have to do a little bit more than that. So yeah, Boruto chapter 34. I really liked it. A lot to talk about coming out of this one. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this chapter and what are your thoughts on some of the kind of mysteries and ideas presented here. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching and bye.